Hello and welcome to episode 5 of The Honest Path with Jim and John. I'm Jim, he's John, and we care a ton about young men and the people who love them. And today we especially care about men finding friends. Men are recording more loneliness than ever before, and not just with friends for each other, but also lonely in their romantic worlds, and many lack mentors. So today we're going to be kind of focused, John, on friendship and intergenerational mentoring.
There you go. Yeah, this is maybe the uh keystone problem for young men. You could call it one of the few.
I like that.
Yeah, there's many factors beyond personal lives as far as male loneliness. So you might, a lonely man might go, well, I'm not the most socially gifted, and there's a lot of agency you can take there. But this
Yeah.
is one of the diagnoses handed down from on high that third spaces are disappearing. Rates of social expectations for hanging out are disappearing. So if you strive to achieve more
Yeah.
platonic relationships, that will be harder than it used to be, even if you're doing everything you can.
Yeah, that's
So
totally true, and I
yeah.
think that it's more important than it's ever been, and it's
Hmm.
it's less common than it's ever been. And our position is that it doesn't matter which personality type is. It doesn't matter, kind of the kind of person you are. Relationships are possible for you. Finding mentors is possible, and not only possible, but really important.
Absolutely. So as always, we're going to go through our four quarters. Quarter one will be why men struggle with friendship. Quarter two is how brotherhood is built. Quarter three is finding and keeping mentors. And quarter four is the long game of brotherhood. So we're going to go through that, and hopefully by the end you feel equipped to make some bros.
And encouraged to do so.
Yeah.
So, super excited about that. Thanks for being a part of the show with us. Before we get started, John, it's manly, manly, manly time. So, tell me, what is the most manly thing you have recently done?
Mine is um really truly stupid, and I think anyone much older than me is going to think it's even more so stupid. But I found my way to a place I'd never been without a cell phone, without a map, and I was going there, and I had looked up earlier to see where it was in town because I didn't
Hmm.
recognize the street name. So I had the
Rough
you know
idea.
the rough idea, and I start driving there, and I realize, oh, I don't have it up on the map, and I pat around on my phone. It's dark out already because it's after 2 p.m. and in the Pacific Northwest that means it's dark out, and in the winter, and I can't find it. So I go, I left it at the office. I was going from work, and it kind of got me excited. I was like, ooh, an adventure. I get to, I have to find my way to this place. And it was a gathering. So I knew that when I got in the
Oh,
neighborhood, I'd see all the cars. And I did. I found my way to the neighborhood, followed the signs, made one wrong turn, doubled back when I was like, nah, this ain't it.
yeah.
And found, 20 cars. So that's a little bit of cheating.
Yeah.
And then when I got there, I found my phone. It just slid around the seat in the dark and I wasn't able to find it.
Well, I did some research recently on neuroplasticity and brain function and how God wired our brains. But it turns out, if you don't use it, you lose it. And this GPS thing where you just turn on command everywhere you go is dumbing us down. So when you get to my age, John, you'll need to do this routinely just to check your brain out and push yourself a little further. So well done. So you say
Thank you.
that's, a lot of people think that might be stupid. I actually think it's great, and I think we should do it more.
And as
And
always, we have a great and very smart, wise friend who was kind of poking fun at us for this manly section. This is silly. I know many women are good with directions. This is not the meat of this show,
sure.
but it makes you feel self-reliant.
Yeah, and it's a nice kind of soft way to jump into the show too, to have start our conversation off talking about something we feel manly about because we both could use a little man ego stroke.
That's right. So what's
So
yours
mine,
this
well,
time?
mine is that you and I would say we're both doing this credit to both of us that we have started this journey because we saw this critical need for young men, and now 1 month in, we are doubling down. So not only are we persuaded that this is a worthy cause for our energy and time, we're persuaded that it's so existentially important that we're going all chips in. John and I are both pushing our chips into the middle of the table. We're going to take some risks. We are going to make some commitments that are more radical than we intended, because this is a worthy cause. So taking the risk is manly. Trusting God for some outcomes is manly, and putting ourselves out there for whatever good we can contribute, I think, is a manly decision. So, way to go, John. High five. Uh, well played. Yeah, fist bump.
Yeah.
That's more manly than a high five. Is a high five
I don't know.
adolescent
No, it requires more
coordination?
contact.
Yeah,
When I'm passing someone in the office, I
you can
hold
do
up
the
a
fist
fist
bump.
bump.
Yeah,
Totally. Because the high five, if you glance off, you both feel stupid.
then
And
you both
it's,
feel dumb. Yeah.
yeah. And I will say we normally do least manly, but you vetoed this week for the amazing fact you've searched and remembered and you can't find your least manly
I
thing.
can't think of a non-manly thing I've done recently. So
That's amazing.
that's really attributable to a bad memory, not to a high functioning masculinity.
And I'm not about to step out here and say it alone. I
Yeah.
need you to do it with me. So
Yeah.
okay.
All right.
Hopping into quarter one. Why men struggle with friendship.
Yeah, I think it's a universal desire. I know, in fact, I just in the last, I would say 2 weeks, been in conversations with multiple men, either in a men's gathering or hanging out with dudes. Number one complaint of people, really, these are men that are, trying to figure out church life, is that they can't, that they're still alone, can't find community. Can't, that's the phrase I hear. I can't find community. And so I think it's a highly felt need. And I think there are some things we can understand about why men struggle to find those.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a ton written on this. And the interesting part is that a lot of it is in the modernist arena. So it's in the 40s and 50s, kind of
Mm,
before now it's so much worse. And it's really amazing that a lot of this holds together. So I'll get into that. But I had a question for you.
okay.
You just said you got a bad memory, but I think you can do this.
Okay.
What was friendship like for you pre-digital age? Like what kind of what differences do you see in that kind of arena from then to now? Because I
Mm.
got a cell phone when I was 12. So before that, it's a pretty dewy memories. I don't have a great sense of the world before that.
Well, the thing that comes to my mind is that you had to leave your house and go see each other. You had to go.
Mm.
There
Yeah,
was there was no passive relationship. So, I guess you could write letters, but nobody does that, and nobody did that then. Men don't want to
yeah,
write. So, now that you mention that, you had to leave the house, or go to their house, or them come to your house. So it required movement, which required commitment, which required time. Now we didn't have the video game option, the distractions of
sure.
that. They were around, but they weren't like they are now. And so, but man, you went and did stuff. Your relationships, your friendships were built out of shared activity that was mutually fun.
Yeah,
And I think that was really the basis of how relationships grew. Time
yeah,
together.
that's amazing. So uh these resources really the writing I was talking about, I was thinking of C.S. Lewis because writes a lot about male friendship, and he's interesting because he's a bachelor for a very long time,
Mhm.
and in that era, that's not very normal.
Right.
He's eligible, he's educated, he's
Yeah, they're getting married at 15 and 17 in those days.
yeah, yeah. So he gets married. I wish I knew when he gets married as a much older man, and then his wife dies not long after that.
Mm,
But so he writes a lot about friendship. He has the famous Inklings, him and Jared Tolkien and some other Oxford professors.
yeah.
And so he writes that in the modern age, well, first he says this kind of the virtue of friendship. He says that romantic love is looking, the two partners are looking at each other face to face and looking in each other's eyes. It's all about each other. And in platonic love and friendships, the members are standing side by side and looking at something else. So, you'll see this, like you said, men go out and do something in their
Right.
friendships. They're both looking at, it could be mudding, it could be a sport, it could be pool,
Yeah.
could be almost anything. And the other thing he says and the one where I was like, that was true back then. I can't believe, I don't know what he would say now. He says that all platonic love has been killed and replaced with erotic love. So we see this now, famous male friendships on screen. You'll see, you have to scroll through two comments to see they're probably gay. Those have to be
Well,
they have to be
it's
in love.
interesting. It's interesting that you say that because there's a set of commercials where these two comedians live next door to each other, is what they're implying. But they're always in the same house, and there's never a woman in the commercials.
Hmm.
I can't remember what product they're selling. Is this ringing any bells with you? They're both funny
Is it the
guys.
the Scrubs actors? Those two?
Yes, yes.
I have seen those. Yeah.
So they're probably playing off Scrubs, and I don't know anything about that. But uh, after the first two different commercials, I thought they're portraying these guys as gay, like that they. And so I fell into the same trap. And even now, people are reinterpreting David and Jonathan in the Old Testament as they were probably lovers. So,
Hmm.
what is it? What do you think that means that we're erotifying platonic, what normally would be platonic relationships? Why do you think that's happening?
I don't know. I don't know the why. That's a tough question. I don't know the why.
Do you think it makes it harder for guys to have friendships because they think people
Yes.
might think we're gay?
I don't know. There's not a
Or
lot
maybe
of
I shouldn't feel this way. Maybe I'm gay if I have a good friend. you know,
yeah.
what?
I don't know how much paranoia there is about that for men. I don't know
Yeah,
a lot of men who go, I would hang out with other dudes, but I don't want to be gay. I don't know how
yeah,
much of that there is. There is that from the outside and in high profile stuff, but down to the non-rich and famous of us, and especially in uh in my generation and younger, there's more jokes about it than anything.
yeah,
I don't know. So but the way that plays out is very clear. And maybe it's the pursuit of erotic love above all else. So it kind of
right.
diminishes the virtue and value of platonic
Platonic
love,
love.
to where why would I spend all that time on that when society tells me that's not really worth much?
Well, what's interesting is women seem to be crushing platonic love,
Mm,
and they don't care how gay it looks, and they'll even tease about that. This is my platonic, or this is my whatever, my fake wife or whatever.
mm.
So they're totally comfortable having more intimate relationships and friendships with each other, and they seem to be, you know, doing way better at it right now than men are. So let me ask you this, John. Explain male loneliness. Why is it on the rise, and why is that happening?
Uh, I learned recently. I think this comes down to another thing that we kind of deny in the modern world, but it seems to be maybe shifting back, is really core differences in normative male and female behavior, or normative male and female needs or expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned, it was in an interview with, what's the guy's name who wrote Wild at Heart? Remember his name?
John Eldridge.
John Eldridge. It was an interview with him on Pints with Aquinas, which is, or now it might be called, the channel's called Matt Fradd. It's an interview show for faith topics. It's really good. This one is amazing. And he says, women, their their circle, their social circle, needs to be bigger than the normal man's.
Yeah.
So a man really only needs to feel, to not feel a need there. He needs, like, two or three, maybe.
Yeah. Three's a lot.
Yeah, three is a ton. So and so he says, he explains a regret he had when he was younger of his wife wanting to spend time with more friends, and he kind of was resistant to that, and he now regrets it because he understands, because he didn't think he doesn't need that many friends.
Yeah. If I got two and you got two, what's the problem?
Totally. But research shows that the normative female experiences, they need more connectivity. They're more relational.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that even though I think the digital age jeopardizes all friendship, it makes sense that women would fare a bit better in that, as kind of more social creatures, and the men with already isolative tendencies, or kind of individualistic tendencies,
Yeah.
would really get hit with the brunt of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So strong friendships don't just show up. Some people, there's a famous story in Blue Like Jazz with Donald Miller from years ago where he's talking to a young woman about her faith and trying to help her find her way to God. And she said, I didn't find my way to my best friends. They happened to me.
Mhm.
We collided. We had so I want God. I need God to happen to me. She was describing that that's how her best friend showed up, and that's how she needs God to show up. And why aren't best friends just happening to us? They don't appear anymore. They have to be built by people who are willing to act first. So so how does that inform if a guy's battling loneliness and if a guy feels like I need more community, how does this reality inform his path forward? Because they're not going to just happen almost ever.
Totally. It's a great point because the way things have changed, you know, most of my well, that might not be true. A few of my best friends, and at least one of yours, we met in college.
Yeah.
In those environments where friendships happen, right? That's all education, basically,
Yeah. You
and
got
work.
real tight proximity,
Yeah.
lots of candidates,
Mhm.
and lots of traffic patterns because of class schedules, school events, whatever. So there's a high likelihood that a friendship can happen to you in that target rich environment.
And the same age range,
Yeah,
like
right,
everyone there
right.
is about
Same
your
phase of life, same
yep.
thinking about what am I going to do for a living? Am I going to find me a woman? Do you
Yeah.
have a concubine? What's going on?
But now men aren't going to college at nearly the same rates.
Yeah.
So that ends a lot sooner.
Okay.
And then the random friendships, the another word I'm looking for I can't find, but the emergent friendships,
Yeah.
those happen. Those are harder at work. You have a broader life experience range and different levels of commitment. And the other thing is our mobile society geographically, our physically mobile society. People
Yeah.
move like crazy. And so what is it gonna, another weakness of men is how are you gonna keep up with that guy when he moves to, uh I don't know, Florida, God forbid.
Yeah.
How are you gonna keep that going? So those are both contributing to that. But you asked specifically how to pursue that as opposed to waiting for an emergent friendship. Is that what you asked?
Well, I was trying earlier, I was asking how do we explain male loneliness rising? But I think the thing that I'm having an aha about right now is even when you talk about friendships happening to us, when you're in that target rich environment in school
Yeah.
or on a campus, or you have military, a lot of military
Mm,
buddies are forever, firefighters. So guys who go through intense experiences together. But even in those environments, someone has to take responsibility to initiate a deeper intersection than what you're already getting naturally.
sure.
So I think one of the things that we want young men to embrace right now is that if guys are standing around going, I wish I had community, and they're all saying that, it's not going to change till people start taking responsibility to pursue community and to take responsibility to actually create opportunities for more time, more experiences. Because if everybody's sitting around waiting, nobody's doing the initiating. So, but that was true even when you were in a target rich environment.
True.
You found some people you had affinity with, but somebody had to say, "Hey, let's go do this thing," or "I want to talk to you. Let's go sit down and have a meal," et cetera. So it's
Yeah.
still going to come down to someone's got to take responsibility and 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 throw away passivity or waiting to be invited, waiting to be chosen, waiting to be noticed.
When I remember I had school friends because the hangout time in school is built in, like recess. That's
Yeah.
a built-in hangout time. So I had friends, some of my best friends in school. I never went to their house one time, or if I did, maybe once or twice for like a birthday throughout the years.
Mm,
But we would never hang out on weekends. I never see them after school. It was very interesting. And even when I was a kid, I remember thinking, "Is this weird? Like, these are my best friends. I never see them after school." And then, to your point about the that phase ending, that's not built in anymore. You're going to have to create
yeah.
a recess like environment
Yeah.
to get to know people.
Now, I saw you wrote down a thing called Dunbar circles. What is that?
Yeah, so that is we kind of touched on this on our screen time episode. The Dunbar circles are, I believe, it originated from a social study on monkeys. and their social behavior and needs and how they worked communally.
Yeah.
And basically, it was very similar to what we've talked about elsewhere. But the greater community for these monkeys was like 100 or so people what you could actually call, not people, monkeys. You could actually call their community.
Yeah.
And then it gets down to about in the 20s or 30s, and then it gets down, I think for them it was from about 10 or so on average, is like your real community, and then even smaller for family.
Yeah.
And so they thought, well, that's really interesting, does it apply to humans? And the numbers were almost exactly the same
Really?
for human needs. Yeah. So one of the things we see in the digital age is that people's Dunbar circles are kind of messed with because of social media. So as opposed to 100 people that you really, I think about this in church. When I walk through, Evergreen, and it's crowded,
Hmm.
I think many of my 100 are in there. It's people that I look at, and I feel something when I see their face. I go, I'm like, that's one of my people,
Right.
even if I don't talk to them hardly ever. And I
Right.
go and I say hi, I say, how's it going? So those are the broader circle. Because of social media, that number could be 500, and you feel like you might have a real thing here when you actually haven't spoken a word or typed a message to them. That time slips away from you. It might have been 10 years. I was out of college. What was that be? That was 20. I graduated 2018. So that's almost 6 years ago. And
Yeah.
that time is like, that's nothing. Or no, I got married 7 years ago.
But
So
with
yeah,
social media, you're keeping up with their stories. So you still feel like, oh, look, they had a kid, or they
yeah,
changed jobs, or they just took this trip. So you still feel connected to them artificially because you are keeping up with their story.
exactly.
When I was at Evergreen and, you're pastoring a church with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people,
Mhm.
Facebook was my best friend and Instagram because I would just scroll through there. I might not remember your name, but I remember that you just went to a wedding. And so when people would walk up, I go, "Hey man, how was the wedding? You guys looked sharp." And sometimes, confession, sometimes I couldn't remember their name, but I
Mm,
felt connected to them because on social media I was keeping up with their life. So since that circle, John, might be if you've got 2,000 friends and not all of them are active. But you're going to see things scrolling around. You're going to see updates from people's lives. How does that affect the next circle? Because that makes an enormous gap. If you went from 100 to 23 or 25, now you're going from 1,000 to 25.
yeah.
And that
And
that might feel lonelier.
the way those circles kind of expand or contract in a physical environment. So an environment with no digital communication happens very naturally, right? It might even be physical proximity. It might be, if I live in town, my neighbors, if we go way back,
Yeah.
if way back like 80 years, my neighbors would be in the nearest one, because I have to rely on them.
Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
kids know my kids, and if they have a fire, I'm gonna run over there, and throw the buckets, whatever.
Yeah.
So just all of those kind of naturalistic, the way that those relationships would develop or expire was really much more natural. And now, like you said, the gaps are huge. And for one person to go from an exterior circle closer to the interior, what does that look like in the digital world? There has to be physical proximity for this to even work.
Well, I think, you and your brother have had a friend who's in the Northeast somewhere because you've played a video game. What's his name?
His name is Derek.
Derek. So Derek actually invited you guys to his wedding and you still never met each other. So it is possible to feel a more small circle connection to someone, and almost all of your interaction is digital. That is possible, but it's not likely. And
And it's not sustainable. I haven't talked to Derek in, I think, before I got married. I think a long time.
oh wow, so that kind of fell away.
Yeah.
So I think, if we're starting to talk about some takeaways from quarter one here, somebody's got to take responsibility. You're going to have to get out of the house. You're going to have to get offline. And I would say John and I are big proponents. We use social media to try to reach guys and expand our community size here at the Honest Path. But I'm trying to finish every social media post with, now at the end of this video, you know, delete your social media and get outside, go do something, pick up a book,
Mhm.
go talk to a friend. So we really want we believe life is better without social media. But you're going to have to get up. So if you feel alone, the solution is going to start with personal initiative, not popularity. So it's not going to happen because you're in an environment where people think you're cool or
Mm.
you're the one they all want to meet. You're going to have to take initiative because the opportunities to be around people in a closer proximity space, they're fewer than ever before. A lot of people are working remotely, and then what are the chances that you work with somebody you want to spend more time with? And then there's no third spaces, and we're not parts of clubs and even churches. John, talk about the monkeys with 100 and then 20. This is an argument for small churches. And I
Mm.
think that when we attend mega churches and we can walk in and walk out without saying a word to anybody, run up to the balcony, sit by ourselves, head home, we can have a meaningful experience, but we're not building community. It's an artificial sense, like going to the Avs game because they're the best team in hockey. You go to an Avs game and you have this shared experience with 17,000 people at Ball Arena, and it's awesome. The people are wearing the jerseys and they're wearing the colors and they're screaming and yelling, and we won the game. But I don't know anybody,
Yeah.
and so I think 80% of churches in America are 100 people or less. I bet in those churches, people are experiencing more community than they are at the churches of 2,000.
I think that's correct. And the last thing I'll say is I want to advocate again for the church potluck. I think they get so much crap.
Yeah.
Oh, this is like the Jello salad that Debbie used to make at the church potluck.
Sorry,
But
Debbie.
not any Debbie in particular. Uh, but I mean, come on, that's breaking of bread every single week. Like that's real community, you
Well,
know.
we went old school, John. We had a Friendsgiving. Our young adults had a Friendsgiving. They had 65 young adults come and, share food and eat. We had one for the 40 plus crowd, and we had like 65 people, 70 people come and brought dishes. Um, and it was a blast. So I agree. Bring back the church potluck.
Well, I think every week it's a huge ask to make a meal every week and give up your Sunday afternoon. But I think that could be something.
There are churches that are going to meals, the table. There's something powerful about breaking
Mm.
bread in the table. So there's you. If you're going to take some initiative, take some responsibility, invite somebody out to a table, have a drink, eat some nachos, break some bread, because there is something powerful about the community and the dinner table. That's a big
Yeah.
deal.
Well, now we're getting into solutions. Let's go to quarter two
Okay.
on how brotherhood is built.
All right.
So, uh, uh, yeah, take us to our core theme, and I want to push back on one thing on this, but
Okay.
you take it.
Well, I think the core theme here is that men bond through shared effort, consistency, and respect. So you talked about shoulder to shoulder, platonic friendships. We're looking at the same thing. That's
Mhm.
why when we have a shared interest, that becomes an easier way. Fantasy football league, we like to go fly fishing. We ride motorcycles. When you have a shared effort, it's easier, but also consistency because that says you matter to me. So consistency is a big deal, and then respect. That I may tease you, I may kid around like a middle school kid, but I do respect you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the only thing I love, the core theme is great. The only thing I want to push back on is deleting social media in the realm of friendship, because we've talked about these third spaces are dying, and
Mm-hmm.
even when you go to them, the culture is not the same per se. So if you go to a bar, you go to a church, the you might not just land into a net. You do still have to take that initiative, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
So modern problems, modern solutions. I'd say there is an argument to be made for social media finding friends like interest groups,
Mm.
a hiking group. Lindsay's on the what is it, the Tenino Talk Facebook page. That does not make community. People there are very upset a lot of the time,
Yeah.
but it keeps you in tune with your community. But you could find a Facebook group for, yeah, for Saturday hiking, a Facebook group for, bird watching. I don't
Yeah.
know. So that is a tool that I would say might be worth investigating. What do you think about that?
I think that's awesome. This is one reason why ongoing learning, continual learning is a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. Like all these community college stuff offer extra classes to learn something. You can go somewhere and learn a skill, take a trip. I think putting yourselves in environments, that putting yourself in a shared interest environment is a wise thing to do. While you were talking, John, I had the realization churches now, the room is dark, the music
Mm,
is loud. It is not designed for conversation. And then with the dark room and the lit stage, it's like going to the movies. You don't talk at the movies, you watch the movie.
right.
And so then when the lights come up, movie's over. Now what do? You go home. And so in classic faith, in the history of our faith, churches would pray together. They would know each other's names. They would, so I think there's some things there that even churches can do that help people not just attend the event and have an experience, but actually start to recognize the people around them. We have this section of our church that's they lovingly call themselves the introvert section, and they're very cross generational. And one of them got baptized. Okay, and they all just sit in the same area, but there's seats between them. They're not sitting together. They don't come together and they don't leave together. But they all gravitated that side of the room because it's kind of far from the door and it's the least crowded section. So when this gal got baptized, this single man, older than me, went up and said, "Hey," and told everybody in that section, "Hey, let's all go to Maggiano's for lunch and celebrate her baptism. It's on me." And so he just takes like, I think 7 or 8 introverts from this section all go to lunch together to celebrate her baptism, and they have become friends, and they proudly sit in the introvert section and they're cheering each other on. And all it took was one guy who said,
Mm.
"Hey, why don't we go do this thing?" And I'm sure there were awkward moments, where they're fishing for what to talk about, but again, it was effort, it was focused, and I think that's a huge deal.
That's amazing. That's exactly what we're talking about, and it shows one thing that can kind of an assumption is that maybe the part of that room is called the introvert room, right?
Yeah.
So that guy could have thought these people do not want me to invite them to lunch. I'm going to be pulling teeth if I do this.
Right.
But the truth was, of course, they were waiting for an invite to lunch.
Yeah.
They all, and like you said, these young men that you're meeting that are like, man, I'm starving for community.
Yeah.
The desire is there, so you're not going to have to do a lot of convincing, I don't think, to get people to especially, well, he bought them Maggianos. That helps too.
Yeah, and
Grease the wheels a little bit.
it does. Again, though, breaking bread, sitting there having an experience, a shared experience together. They're eating a meal. They probably ate family style, which Maggiano's encourages. If you have more than 4 people in your party, it's more cost effective and more fun to have a family style meal. So that was all experiential. But it brings up a point in this quarter of how brotherhood is built. Consistency matters more than chemistry. This is a counterintuitive thing because we say, birds of a feather flock together, and we think I got to find somebody like me.
Mm,
And the truth is, no, the beauty's in the diversity, and the odds of finding somebody just like you are getting less and less likely. But consistency trumps chemistry. Chemistry is not unimportant, but consistency is more important.
yeah. So that would be, you mean fast friends, someone that you meet and you go, oh, we just skipped a few levels of this because we're on the same wavelength. You mean
Yes,
that might be overrated?
I think it's not overrated. It's just rare. It's
Yeah.
happening less. So that's the whole. Did we just become best friends?
Right.
That still that still happens, but it's incredibly rare. I have a lot of friendships in my life right now that are guys who have very little in common with me in terms of things we do with our free time or the books we're reading, or the places we're going, or how we would want to spend a free day if we had it. But we are consistent in getting together, and there's a brotherhood forming there.
Yeah, it is. What do you think about this? So shared interest is not always, we just talked about interest groups, which is a great way to meet people. But I have, great friends that do not care about the stuff that I really care about.
How
But
did
there
that
is,
happen?
it happened through meeting them through school and mutual relationships. So
Yeah,
so friends of like Lindsay's friend, her friend's husband. So we hang out,
yeah,
and things like that.
yeah.
So, but the key is, there are people that I hang out with that if I made a joke, wouldn't laugh or wouldn't understand that I was joking, or like if there's there is a level of what's the word, synchronicity or mirroring in tone that
Yeah,
is important. That's
yeah.
that maybe for me, maybe I'm weird about it, but for me it's more important than the shared interest, per se.
Well, and I think that's why it can be pursued when you talk about, some routines you build, or some workouts you do, or some
Mm.
shared projects that you do, or getting involved in serving, man. Go serve at the food bank, find a place to serve in your church. There's an affinity that can happen. You're putting yourself in the proximity shared initiative zone when you do these kind of things. So to consistently go to the gym and work out, and invite someone to go with you, to do a service project, to do weekly meetups. Um, we have three different, well, really four different men's groups going on right now at our church. All of them were just posted as a meetup,
Mm.
and none of them were five guys who already knew each other said, let's do this. They were meetups, but they're consistent and they put us in the same space. And in almost all of them, there's some calorie intake. Uh, so, uh, but it's the consistency and the facilitated dialogue that's actually bringing brotherhood together.
One thing came to mind, and I hadn't thought about this in a long time because it was a high school buddy of mine. I don't talk to. He's the only person I still talk to from high school, and the rest were all either predate that or from college.
Mm-hmm.
And we were friends. He's my buddy Toby. We were friends already because we like a lot of the same stuff,
Yeah.
and he's a knucklehead. But then we took senior year, we took weight training together. It was just a PE credit. I didn't even know he was in that class. I show up and there he is. I was like, oh,
Oh,
hey Toby.
yeah.
And the physicality of that. So we were partners. We're going
Mm,
around spotting each other for lifts. It made the friendship uh more, I don't know, it made it more familiar. It was more solid. It was more of a real friendship at that point because we had this kind of project and we had each other's back, literally. Like one time he was
yeah.
doing a clean and he almost just collapsed straight off this platform because he was doing a one rep max clean.
Yeah.
And I had to stop him from collapsing off the plate. It's a real thing that just kind of naturally happens.
What's also cool is you bore witness to each other improving the amount of weight you could lift, hitting your new personal best. So there's somebody bearing witness to this thing you're doing,
Totally.
and that's a pretty important thing. So I
Yeah.
guess what we're saying here is, in the first one we're talking about consistency beats chemistry. Here we're talking about repetition beats personality.
Mm.
So get involved in something. If you now you can single out a guy. We'll talk about this in a minute, and we're gonna get more and more answers. Right now, you may be listening to this and going, man, you guys are just singing the song that I'm singing the blues over here, and all you're doing is giving me another verse of the blues. But we're gonna get to some very specific things we can do to move forward. For now, I think getting involved in a service project, joining a service team, having some habit, some thing that a skill you try to grow, or a workout or whatever, these things put you in a position where you can experience consistency and regularity.
Yeah, and to do an inventory, if you were to say, because one thing you could go to, like say you're really lonely and you pull up the bird watching group, even though you have zero interest in birds, that's not going to work as well as if you really search yourself and go, what do I care about, and
Yeah.
do I want to stare at? And then there are people that, in that C.S. Lewis metaphor or image, that will stand next to you, and you can work at it and focus on it together.
You reminded me years ago when I was living there. Olympia is in Thurston County, and Thurston County has a thing called Leadership Thurston County. And it's a nonprofit organization that brings about 35 people together for a year.
Mhm.
And once a month you meet and you learn about the county. So one week is law enforcement week, and you meet with police officers and you visit police stations. One week is economic development. So you're meeting people who are growing businesses and entrepreneurs, and you visit a few businesses. One week is justice. So you go to the courthouse and you see how the court system works and you hear from judges.
Cool.
And, one week is about the tribes. And so you get on a bus and you go to one of the reservations and you meet the tribal council. But you meet once a month. So it's 9 times together. It's 9 months long.
Yeah.
And, but you're hopping on buses and you're spending the entire day together. You're having a lunch together. I knew one person when I went to Leadership Thurston County out of 36. I knew one. And by the end of the 9 months, I had about four people that I would consider true friends
Mhm.
because we went through that 9 months together. So again, these opportunities have diminished in our culture, so you have to go find them.
Yeah, and it's tough. We'll get into more on how to actually do that, but first, it is time for our book recommendation before quarter three: Finding and Keeping Mentors.
Yeah, we want to keep pushing you. The stats on masculine readership are not encouraging, but we are going to keep encouraging you to be readers. Reading is the greatest way to grow your vocabulary. It's the greatest way to sharpen your mind. It's the greatest way to have, and it's way better than, and it's way better than seeing the movie. Like almost everybody who's read the book and seen the movie will tell you the book was way better.
Yeah.
So we're going to push you to read. So I'll go first, John. I've got this book that I just recently started reading. It was given to me by a friend. It's got by a guy named Brant Hansen, and it's called The Men We Need.
Good cover. I like that
Yeah,
cover.
isn't that good? The Men We Need. It's written by a guy who, uh, in the introduction, he talks about how he's not a manly man. So, you don't have to chop wood and, shoot things and kill and eat to be a man. He says that when he was a kid, he played the flute and he went through Boy Scouts and he brought his flute to the scout meeting thinking that the other scouts would really be impressed by the flute. And then in parentheses, it says narrator voice. The scouts were not, in fact, impressed with the flute. But man, it is a great book. It is God's purpose for the manly man, the avid indoorsman, and any who are willing to show up. I'm really enjoying it. I would recommend it.
That's great.
All right.
As always, I go the low road. I've talked about I think only fiction so far for my books. I'm gonna keep that going, and I've been done hoity-toity fiction, and
Oh.
I'm gonna lay that down so you guys know who you're really dealing with here. This is one of my favorite books. This is Salem's Lot, Stephen King.
Mm.
This is I've read probably 10 Stephen King books, and I think this is his best fiction that I've read so far.
Aren't all his books fiction?
No, because of On Writing, his memoir, which is probably my
Oh,
favorite of
okay.
his
Yeah.
books.
Yeah. Okay. So he's got
Uh,
one nonfiction book.
yes, that I know of. He might have another, but yeah, and then like 60 novels,
Right.
something like that. So, but this is one of his really early ones, and it actually is a great read for male friendship. A lot of his books involve kind of men from all walks of life coming together to solve a problem. This
Yeah.
one's vampires in a small town in Maine.
So the men of the town get together to kill all the vampires.
Yeah, and it goes. It's very. It doesn't go that well, but it's Stephen King is he's so ubiquitous that he gets kind of like he becomes. It's like Marvel movies. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, great, Stephen King.
Yeah.
He, I mean, as far as fiction goes, he is amazing, and fiction reading is good for your brain. It might not. This I didn't learn a life lesson from Salem's Lot, but I sure had a great time, and it was good for me. That might be debatable. It was good for my brain.
Way better
And
for your brain than sitting there and watching a whole season of something,
absolutely.
that you streamed.
Yeah. A great book.
Okay, we're going to jump to quarter three, which is about finding and keeping mentors. Because here's the thing I would propose that if you have no community, a great place to start is to search for a mentor because that has a thing that will start to grow your hope, your optimism, your sense of, hey, there really is a future, etc. So
Mm.
we're going to, quarter three, we're going to talk about finding and keeping mentors.
Yeah, I love it. And this one, right off the bat, I want to say, we're talking to young men, people that love them. So if you're listening to this and you are older, more experienced, or you just happen to, if you're not that old, but you happen to know a younger kid or younger man who could use mentor, this that most naturally and easily goes from the mentor to the mentee. It's more natural for the mentor to seek out the mentee.
Mm.
So I would say, so
I
I would,
think that's the way mentees think it should happen, and the fact that nobody picks me, I must not be the pretty girl. So
well,
this is
I'm not absolving responsibility.
oh
I'm
okay,
encouraging on the chance that we have that any of these those the mentor candidate men are listening.
yeah,
I'm encouraging them
take a
to take
step,
this as
yeah.
kind of a responsibility,
Well, let me
not
tell
to
you my
absolve the
experience with that.
mentee.
No, I agree with that. I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
But my experience, and this is why the word mentor is a little bit, I don't use that word very often because most men I talk to go, well, I don't know anything. Man, I've been through two marriages, or I don't have a financial future. I haven't prepared for retirement at all. Like, what am I going to teach somebody? And do they even want to know? Because you have a lot of people my age think that, uh, you know, that the younger generation says, I don't trust anybody over 30.
Right.
So there's a gap there that both need to move towards. I would say this: every generation has a responsibility to the others. This should be a life value for us that every generation has a responsibility to the other ones. Years ago, I read a book called Mentoring by Bob Beal. It's a pretty thick book, and it is considered the Bible of mentoring. It's a great book. So if you're thinking about maybe you would take a stab at being a mentor, that's the book you get. But here's how that book opens up, John, in the introduction. Imagine you're a young man and some guy that you've seen around that you kind of admire comes to you and says, hey, I have been watching you and I see in you some things that draw me to you. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to become a part of your life and maybe be a part of your life for the rest of your life. And whether you end up in the White House, the outhouse, the penthouse, or the poorhouse, or the jailhouse, I will be a part of your life for the rest of your life. I want to know the woman you marry, and I want to know the kids that you have, and I just want to be a part of your life. What difference would that have made in your life? And
Mm.
the answer is enormous. That's game changing, destiny changing reality.
Yeah.
So we're begging guys uh, to lean into this on in both directions because we're talking about game changing, destiny shaping possibility when you humble yourself and put yourself in proximity to an intergenerational relationship. Both are going to win. I've learned so much from guys younger than me who think that our relationship is about them learning from me, and I just keep learning and growing. So as you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about this because of the difference it can make.
Well, I love it because it's not a current, um, it's not very, what's the word I'm looking for? Common.
Trent,
It's not commonly occurring these
yeah, there you
days,
go. Yeah,
especially outside of the church. So this is what you're saying is this is the potential in this is so amazing. In current narrative, we can see this in like a foster or
yeah,
adoption story,
yeah.
but not so much apart from that. So I don't know if you just ask someone off the street, who has mentored you apart from your outside of your family,
Yeah.
people probably aren't going to have great answers. So one, I appreciate you saying how valuable and important this is. and two, you made me realize, talking about who has the buck on this,
Hmm.
that I am inordinately privileged in this conversation. I have a long list of mentors that I thank God for literally all the time,
Mm,
and I fell into every single one of them.
mm.
So in this way, I'm like,
What do you mean you fell into them? How did you fall into them?
I'm saying they were all
They came to you, or
they all came to me.
okay,
So I've been faithful in the relationships.
yeah,
I reach out and reciprocate and try and give,
yeah,
but the initiation was out of my hands for every single one of them. So I was born on third base on that one, quite literally.
yeah. You didn't hit a
So
triple.
no. So I would love for you to, again, yeah, let's talk about agency. Let's talk about ways that the younger men can access this incredibly powerful relationship.
Yeah. So
So yeah, what do you got?
when I came to Christ, my dad had just died. So I show up in church. My mom drags me there, and word gets around among the staff, I guess, or the older people. That kid's dad just died. So a man jumped into my life. He happened to be the youth pastor. He showed up at where I worked. He came and shot hoops with me. He invited me to his home for a meal. His name was Russ Austin, and he continues to be maybe the most influential man that's ever been a part of my life. And like you, I have been blessed with a number of these. But this is an example of up and down. So that one came to me. There's a guy who sees me and says, I want to lean into this guy. I reciprocated. I was generous to him. I was selling shoes in the mall, making a lot of money for a high school kid. So I was so grateful. I bought him gifts and bought meals, and so he came to me. When I'm a young married guy, Sue and I go from double income, no kids, to youth pastor income and two kids, and I am terrible at money management at that point in my life. And there was an older guy in the church who taught what is now Financial Peace University, Dave Ramsey. This is
Mm,
Dave Ramsey wasn't around yet, but he had learned this system from a guy named Ken Blue, I think, something Blue, Ron Blue. Anyway, I knew he taught this material. And so I called him and I said, look, man, my finances are a mess. I'm embarrassed. Could you help me? And he said, bring me every checkbook. This is when you balance your checkbook and,
sure.
had paper bank statements. He said, bring me all your stuff. Come to my office. So I literally threw things in a paper sack, bank statements and checkbooks and bills. And I walked in his office and I just dumped the sack on his desk. And I was humiliated, John. I mean, this is one of the most embarrassing things I've ever done. And he said, look, man, you're normal. Most people are not taught how to do this and they don't know how. And he was just so gracious. And he spent a long time just teaching me basic personal finance. That guy's name was Dan White. Changed my life. So one of those came to me, one of those I went to. My point is, it has to go both ways. And so, the question for you, John, these you are lucky. You fell into a few. So the question for you is, well, who are you going to pursue? Like, who's downline? You got every Paul needs a Barnabas, and Paul has a Timothy. So you should have one up, one down. And this will be the challenge even for young guys. Well, look down too. Look down the pipeline and do some reaching, just like people have reached into your life. So I think it I think it's I think I'm sitting at Denver Seminary listening to I forget the guy's name. Author he wrote a great bunch of great books. Gordon something.
Mm,
Anyway, he's talking about this need men have for brothers and mentors. And he named a few of his, like I just did name some of mine. And I raised my hand at the Q&A time. I'm like, how do you find those guys? This was like 30 years ago.
mm.
He said the same way I found my wife. You date them. So you ask a guy out for coffee and you say, hey, I'd like to buy you a cup of coffee. I'll come to you. Uh, but I just would like to ask you a handful of questions and then show up with some questions because guys don't know how to just start mentoring you. So have questions. My favorite relationships with guys who've wanted to learn from me, young guys who are in school preparing to be ministers, who say, hey, can I come talk to you? I like it when they show up with the questions, not just sitting them go, they sit in my chair and go, now tell me stuff, make me smarter, help me. I like it when they have a question. And here's the thing, when they're dramatically younger than me and they come in there and they ask me questions, but they don't have anything to write down the answers with, I'm like, why do you want, it's a disrespectful thing. Like,
Mm.
if you think I can help you, wouldn't you at least bring something to write down notes if in
Sure.
the off chance that something worth writing down would occur?
Yeah.
When you come without expecting that, you're telling me I don't expect anything meaningful to come out of this. I just wanted to take up some of your time.
Right. Well, and that's yeah, so much of that is we didn't talk as much about it as we should have in the last one, but the respect factor
Yeah,
of all relationships in general, specifically male relationships, respect is huge.
it's a big
Even
deal.
even if it's an irreverent friendship,
Hmm.
even if it's a buddy that all you do is joke around and kind of kill time,
Yeah,
the mutual respect there is huge. In the mentorship relationship, would you say that's even more of a factor?
I think it is uh, because if you're going to take somebody's time and you're going to ask them to speak into your life, uh, they need to feel that you actually believe that you're going to gain from spending time with them. And
Mhm.
that makes them lean in, that makes them feel like they're not wasting their time. But if you disrespect, like no call, no show, or you're
Oh,
late every time you say, well, hey, every time we're going to meet, you're 15 minutes late. I have guys like that in my past, and at my timer in a scenario like that is 7 minutes. If they don't walk in the door at 7 minutes, I leave. And then
even
they
if they
go,
contact you before?
well, no, if they contact me, I'll wait. But if it's a no call,
Mm.
no show, I leave at 7 minutes. And then I love it when they say, hey, you didn't show up. I say, no, I did show up. I left at this time because you weren't there. I assumed you weren't coming
Yeah.
because I hadn't heard from you. So that respect is a big deal. I, that made me sound like a pompous, arrogant jerk,
No,
but
no,
that's part of the mentoring relationship. Like if
yeah.
you're not willing to take, this is a part of the humility of that. I've also in a mentoring relationship had somebody say to me, "Hey, can I offer you some feedback?" A younger person,
Mm.
and yeah, man, if we're not mutual learners and have mutual humility, it's not going to work. So
Yeah.
that's an important part too.
Then okay, so the sell here is, as always, one thing listeners should know about you is you've said that if you were not called to ministry, you could have done Jimmy's used cars and you could have been a millionaire by the time of 30. You can sell. You've sold mentorship.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
let's say a young man listening says, I'm in. You made the sell. I
yeah,
want to find that mentor.
yeah.
You would say, after you've, well, what we know, once you identify a candidate, reach out with some questions, say, could I buy you a cup of coffee, and kind of talk to them that way. What if they don't have a candidate right away? Do you have any kind of tips for that?
Yeah. First of all, you need to uh, embrace that it's normal to be afraid to do this. So
Mm.
you're not weak if you go, man, that scares the crap out of me. So it's okay to be anxious about it. But questions are the doorway to mentorship. So if you say, well, I don't really see any candidates, if that means you need to get out more. But even if you are, say, in a church or at work or in your neighborhood, just you're constantly watching for guys that impress you,
Mm.
that have something about them you admire. If you don't have any of those and you do have a friend or two, start asking people your age, hey, have you ever had a mentor? How did you find them? Who is it? Could I sit in on one of your conversations? So at least keep your feet moving.
Yeah. And then once you have them acknowledged, or you've picked a candidate, you would say, yeah, reach out with those questions, invite them to a coffee, and go from there.
And I would say you don't start with, I'd like you to be my mentor for the next 20 years of my life. You don't start off like that.
Asking
Hey,
the gal you just went out for coffee with, do you want to marry
yes,
me?
yes. Guys don't like that either. By the way, next week, Valentine's week, we're going to have an episode, a 1024 and an episode for you on the state of dating because it's a dismal environment out there. And some of you are married. That's okay. Hang in here because you got friends who are dating. It's going to be a big conversation. But yeah, if you're looking for a mentor or someone to be with, to spend some time with, they're going to get creeped out too if you come on too strong, or you're asking them to make a long-term commitment.
Mm.
And then when you have that meal or that coffee and you ask several questions, at the end of the thing, if it's been meaningful to you, then you could say to them, man, would it be okay if we did this again? Not if we did it every month, once a week, none of that. Would it be okay if we did this again? And how far out would that be for you to be uh, amenable to your schedule? And then after the second one, man, this is fun. I wonder if you'd be willing to make this a regular thing, and what would regular look like to you? So I think that'd be my advice, and it's a compliment to ask someone. I have had to be just to make sure we're showing every side of the coin. When I was in Montana, there was a pastor of a larger church. He really impressed me. We took a grad school class together, and I said to him, "Man, I would love to be on your calendar, maybe once a month. I'll come to you. We lived 50 miles apart. I'll come to you. I'll buy your lunch. Would you be open to that?" And he said, "Man, I really would, but I got 7 of you right now, and I don't have room for
Mm.
8." And so that's okay. It was,
That's tough.
I really wanted to be on his list, but he didn't have time. So there's going to be people who say no. That's okay. You
Yeah.
got to ask anyway.
Yeah. That's
And
good stuff, man.
I think the last thing I would say about this is that mentors don't look for talent; they look for teachability. So, you know, one of the things I notice is how many questions the people I'm with ask about me.
Mm.
You know me, John. I ask piles of questions. I can talk about you for hours because I love to know. I love to learn, and I ask lots of questions. There are people that I'll be with for 2 hours and they haven't asked me a single question about myself or about my life or about how I feel about something. And, those are the ones I don't have time for. I don't care how talented you are. I care about how teachable you are or how much you want to keep learning.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Okay, let's go to the fourth quarter, John. We're down to quarter number 4, and we've called this quarter the long game of brotherhood. Talk about that.
Uh, yeah. So here, core theme for quarter four: the men you walk with shape the man you become. So, the threat to this is in jeopardy from what we talked about with that mobile society,
Mm-hmm.
especially, we talked about college friendships. Tough part about that is you don't go to college with anybody who ends up in a town that you live in now.
Yeah,
That happens almost never.
yeah,
So, we've talked a lot about investment and respect. This is what does that look like across a lifetime, right? And I have had, here in Olympia, we're near enough to a military town, basically, with JBLM right down the
yeah,
road. A
yeah,
lot of kind of soldier and soldier families that come through, and that this is not, they're not long for this town, right? That's
yep,
just built in.
yep.
So, and even other, we had me and Lindsay met this couple when we were newlyweds. We were kind of lonely in town, and it's funny because I grew up here, but when I went to college and came back, it was almost like there was a rift, because a lot of my buddies have stuck around and they've all moved on. So we go to a young couples hangout at Evergreen, and it was one of those things. We met this couple, and it was the synchronicity. It was
Mm,
like the wavelengths were lined up already,
yeah,
and they had lived all over. Most recently, they were in Ohio. And these people moved all over. They said Cleveland, Ohio is the best city in America. I said,
that's
you guys are.
I find that very hard to believe.
They stood by it. They
Yeah,
said the food's amazing. They said it's like not, people don't, people laugh when you say it, so
right.
it's not like over itself. Anyway, because they'd been so mobile, they weren't a military couple, but I understood. I was like, these two are not here for long. I think she was a med student, so it
Mm,
was understood that they were going to
yeah, she's
end up
gonna have to go
somewhere else.
somewhere for residency and all that.
Yeah, and it was okay. And me and the guy's name was Joshua. Just really immediate, strong bond, and most of that was on him because he's one of those guys that was so open. There
Mm,
was no duplicity in him. He
yeah.
would tell you the worst thing he ever did within 20 minutes of meeting him if you
Wow.
asked.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
And that was okay. But part of that is the understanding that, hey, we're going to invest in this over time or over distance. Uh, but I want to ask you, as you're further down the road than me,
Yeah.
you've had friendships longer than I've been alive.
Yeah.
What is this? What is quarter four the long game? What does that look like for you? What does that mean for you?
Well, there's a certain skill set that long-term relationships require, and it's a diminishing skill set in our culture. So to have a long-lasting relationship, first of all, they're going to shape you the most. So they have enormous power, and they will carry burdens with you, and they will bear witness to your story. So there's tons of value in long-term friendships, but they are increasingly rare. In fact, if you read my book, there's a space on there where I talk about um, the determining factor of people I would never hire. What all my bad hires had in common, and what they all had in common is that none of them had a long-term friendship.
Mm,
Their longest friendship, they couldn't tell me about a friend longer than 1 year, and
wow.
that showed up in their work. These were like 7 different employees over a span of time. I was thinking about, I just had to fire the seventh one, in 25 years.
Jeez.
And I'm like, what is it about these guys? And I was thinking about what did they all have in common? And it hit me. None of them had long-term brotherhoods. And that meant they don't have the skills or the commitment to a long-term relationship. And that's what this requires. So you're going to have to go help a guy move.
Yeah.
You're going to have to answer the phone in the middle of the night when you don't want to. You're going to have to be inconvenienced, because that's how brothers know that they're brothers. So, one of my buddies, we tease, uh, um, you can call me anytime, and just tell me, bring a shovel and a truck, because we're gonna go bury somebody. Okay, I'll be there in 30 minutes. That's what we're talking about, is a brother like that. And those are incredibly powerful, but they require you to stay loyal. They require you to do the hard or inconvenient thing. They require you to have a vision in your mind for long-term relationships.
This is really interesting because we talk a lot about meaning and responsibility.
Yeah.
The exact level of meaning you want and fulfillment is the exact level of responsibility it's about going to take, or it's going to cost you.
Yeah.
So here you go, yeah, oh, I'm lonely, I want this real, authentic, nourishing kind of friendship.
Yeah.
It will ask stuff of you, and if you're not willing to give that, you can still have shallower friendships. I've got plenty of friendships where we don't ask anything of each other. They
Right.
just don't go as deep, and they don't pay out as high.
Yeah.
This one for me is trickier on the asking end, and it's selfish in two ways. It's selfish because I'm prideful, so I
Hmm.
don't want to ask for help for things in general.
Yeah.
You don't get to experience this because you're my dad, so I ask you for help with all kinds of annoying things. But the other part is that it does invite reciprocation. So if I say, "Hey, help me move,"
Yeah.
I better expect to receive a "Hey, you help me move" when
Right.
they move. Or, "Hey, can you take me to the airport?" That's opening up to a reciprocal, "Can you take me to the airport?"
Yeah. The airport's a better example. I don't ask anybody to help me to move because I don't want to help anyone move. So that is a law I have. I have moved my entire house by myself because
Oof.
I don't want to ask someone to help me move because I hate moving that bad. But trips to the airport, inconvenience, things like that, I'm all about that.
Yeah.
I think it's about, um, if you think a long-term brotherhood is going to always be convenient, you're never going to have one. So it's really more about commitment than convenience. And I think you really have to have a desire for it. We've lived in a lot of places. So I have friends like this, and they live a long ways away. One of my friends you still have coffee with once a week,
Mhm.
and I don't get to. So we try to text, we try to get on the phone, but you have to make it a priority. But man, I think this might be the place where the saying, to have a long term friend, you have to be a long term friend.
Mm, totally. Yeah, and especially the distance one is so much, to me, is the hardest one. I can be a good friend when we're in the same zip code.
Yeah,
Being a
me
good friend
too.
over the country is really
It's
hard.
really hard. It's really hard. But
Uh,
there are people like that where as soon as we're in the same room together, it's like we've now been apart.
yes, yeah, I love those.
Yeah.
So tell me about the long term effects of a lifelong brotherhood. So you've always said, and I always thought you made this up. I don't think you lied about this. It's just something you always said, and I thought, oh, I guess my dad coined that. But no, I've heard it. I've heard it many places now. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
Yeah.
Just kind of a pretty solid rule for life. How do these long term, would you say, even just for you, decades long friendships, of which you have a few,
Yeah.
how have those shaped you long term?
Well, if your marriage goes through a difficult season, these are guys who don't walk out on their wives.
Mm.
So you'll find encouragement. Uh, you find out that they've gone through hard seasons, or they can encourage you. Hey, you're not going to always feel this way. And probably you're the jackass that's making this worse. So,
And they're
uh,
close enough to you to tell you that to your
yeah.
face.
Yeah. My buddy Chuck says, you need friends who love you, but who are not impressed by you.
Hmm.
And so I think, if you're hanging out with guys who are getting drunk all the time, sleeping around, guys who are making sure that you'll keep a secret because they're cheating on their wives, this you don't need that. You do
Hmm.
not need that, and it will shape you. Conversely, if you have friends who do inspire you, they're faithful to you, they're faithful to their other friends or to their spouses. This helps shape who you are, and it gives you more resolve than you'll ever have on your own because you're in it with a brother and you're watching them do it too. So
Yeah.
it has enormous influence on who you become, I think.
And this is interesting because we're talking in your examples, they are one-on-one friendships, right? They're commitments to one friend. I imagine when we're using the word brotherhood, I imagine the group. And there's more variables. It's a little harder to keep a group long term because again, the
Yeah.
mobility and things change. But how does do you have anything with that where like a group that has met together long term? I know you've had this for spans, right? You'll have a group that met every week. You had a small group before we moved to Washington. You met every week for how long? I mean, 9 years,
It was 10 people for 7.5 years every
seven and a
week.
half years.
Yeah.
So does the what's the word I would say? Benefits is kind of gross because it's like
Mhm.
you're not really in it just for benefits. But does that grow with group size, or do you really for the purposes of this conversation are we talking about one friend, one-on-one relationships?
Yeah. Um, I think that, um, I think, what I had in mind when we were talking about long-term brotherhood is one or two guys. But now that you mention that, that same group we met every week for 7 years, we started off meeting twice a month, and it was just not going anywhere.
Hmm.
And I challenged us to go weekly because you just don't have the rhythm of each other's lives. And if you miss one, then you're out a month. So we all committed and we did every week. And man, the relationships went deep immediately. What's interesting about that now that you brought that up is that I wasn't long term brotherhood with every man in that group,
Sure.
but I was long term friends with them, and each of us would take our calls right now and would pray for each other. But there were only two or three of those that were, man, that's my brother, and
Yeah.
so it shows the beauty of getting in some environments where you have the higher possibility of that occurring. But I think really what we're talking about is uh, two or three. My buddy Dougal, who you've known your whole life, we met our freshman year of high school at a poker game, and neither one of us knew the Lord, and we've been friends, ever since. Uh, that's a long-term brotherhood, and there were plenty of times where I wanted to just beat him in the face. There were stretches of times where we didn't speak, where there was enough conflict between us, we didn't speak.
Wow.
But and this is another saying somebody said, um, your friendships are only as durable as the conflict you're willing to endure.
Wow.
So if you're not willing to endure conflict, you're never going to get this. And this is the same true about our marriages, long-term marriages. If you're not willing to endure conflict, if you're not willing to work things out and walk through the ugly, that you don't have a shot at this. So that's got to be a part of your commitment.
Yeah. Uh, I like the what one last thing I'll say for this on the group's conversation and on but the brothers within the group. I think we didn't say this per se in the finding friends or finding brothers. Uh, we didn't say this explicitly in that section, but the group setting is really powerful for that. For mentors, we encourage the
Yeah.
one-on-one.
Yeah.
Invite them to a coffee one-on-one with your questions.
Yeah.
But the group setting where you have an environment, there was one time when I was a kid, I had a buddy who his neighbor would come hang out every now and again. And me and that neighbor became better friends than me and my original buddy. I felt really bad about it. But
Yeah.
this guy became one of my best friends.
Wow.
Uh, so that's kind of a
That's really
more
interesting.
awkward example. But in a group that like that kind of those interactions
Yeah,
are really, really key for that.
they are. Well, hey, John, let's start wrapping this up. I'm curious, what comes to your mind if you were to make a final charge or a challenge to listeners, like what should I actually do? And I think, I feel this way about church. If you have a sermon without a summons, all you had was an interesting talk.
Sure.
So, what are we calling guys to do? What can, so I think what's coming to my mind is that every one of us should say, okay, here's two or three next steps I can take. And I vow that I will pick one of these and I will take the step to move toward community. Uh, is there something coming to your mind from this whole conversation that you would say, here's what I would encourage?
Totally. I would say we've talked a lot about the need.
Yeah.
So the individual has the need and you're trying to meet this need. But there's the responsibility is so key. And it will work both ways. If you seek to be obedient in your responsibility to your fellow man and the generation above you and the generation below you in the mentor mentee conversation and in the brother
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
If you seek to be obedient in those responsibilities, the meaning need will be fulfilled too. So as opposed to looking at this as like I'm going to go out and find someone to fill the the friend shaped hole in my heart,
Yeah.
and kind of the needy version of that. The alternative, the giving version of that, the selfless version of that, that requires the same agency, that will fill the need.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing I would say is that days fly by. You feel lonely and you go, eventually I'd like to do this. I'd like to look up a special or a shared interest group. I'd like to go to a church men's group. And then the weeks go by and then it's a year. So I would just say, don't wait. Maybe even if you're listening to this and you got 10 minutes, open a new tab and look at your church's groups page or your
Mm.
local shared interest groups. Don't let the time go. And then think of it really from a giving perspective, probably first.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're a part of a Wednesday night table, and one of the guys at my table was one who mentioned to me, "I'm trying to find community, and man, I'm just striking out."
Hmm.
And so it inspired me to invite everybody in the table to our home. So we're going to have a potluck at our home,
Nice.
and at our table is a Hispanic, a Latino family that can make Mexican food, and there's going to be Italian, there's going to be, so it's like bring your
Oh, so
best
you,
dish.
yeah,
Uh,
you thought this through. You said, I'm going to get some good food out of this too.
well, my point is, if you're a guy sitting at a table like that, then come up with an idea. Hey, let's all have a meeting between the meetings. And I'll meet you guys at such and such a pub and we'll hang out for an hour. Anybody free that night? Let's, be an initiator because that personal responsibility thing is huge.
Yeah. It's,
All right.
it's, I feel grieved for some reason, specifically on this topic. I feel grieved that it is a hard reality for young men. And I really hope we've been helpful. And please, if you have more questions or things we didn't talk about, email us and let us know
Yeah.
because this feels like so crucial to the entire epidemic.
It is, and I hope you didn't just hear us say, "Get off the couch, you turkey."
Yeah,
It is hard. But it's not hopeless, and that's what we want you to know. It's not
yeah,
hopeless,
yeah,
and we believe that if you take some steps, that God will help you, and people will respond. So, Don't be passive. Don't wait for it to happen to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, last thing I would say is go Seahawks. So Super Bowl is this Sunday, and we want to urge all of you to root for the Seahawks. We hate the Patriots. The Broncos were one fractured ankle away from being in the Super Bowl. I was really counting on a Denver Seattle Super Bowl, but that's okay. Seahawks, Seahawks, Seahawks. Root for the Seahawks.
Got to wash the taste of the last Pats Seahawks Super Bowl out of our mouths. Got to make it
Yes,
right.
yes, that it's revenge time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, man, listen, if you've enjoyed this, pass it on to a friend. Send that email, pass this podcast on to a friend, pass on the 1024. We really want to grow this community and connect more and more and more of us together. We want to be a brotherhood and we want to support each other and support you.
Absolutely. All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks so much.